Hey y'all, Poxy here with my boy K Dubs. We're going to talk today about the Tekken 8 CBT beta that we were involved in this last weekend that we were lucky enough to get to play in. Some of our thoughts as newer players too. The last Tekken that I played was probably Tekken 3, I believe. Tekken 3 or 4, but fairly sure it was 3. So it's been a very long time since I've gotten really into a Tekken. A little bit of 7, but not like under 20 hours sort of thing. So we'll kind of go over my experiences in this beta. K Dubs, I know you played 7 a good bit, right?
Yeah, so I'm not a legacy Tekken player, but I put in quite a few hours into Tekken 7 after its console release. I did play it a little bit in arcade, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing at that point.
Yeah.
It was a game that really spiked my interest, and so I started getting into it a little bit more seriously. Every Tekken before that, before 7, really kind of approached it as a casual button masher, I would say.
Yeah, same. Just
So
like knew it for like really long combos and all that sort of stuff. So really excited for this game. Just kind of want to go over our experiences with it. I know a lot of people are probably talking about it from the pro level and stuff like that, but for like the casual folks, just kind of what our experience in that beta was and what we're kind of excited and interested in. I kind of want to start off first off. I think at one of the big things that people are going to be focusing on, which is that heat system, right? I know I've heard a lot of pros talk about it with a fear that it's going to really change the game, but from a casual's perspective, from my perspective, it's a lot of fun, man. Like it's really fun. It's an escape button to a degree where like somebody's putting some pressure on you in neutral, and yeah, you just need to get them off of you to a degree that's there. But it's also like, I mean, if you don't got long combos figured out and juggles figured out, it's a way to do a good amount of damage. But it's also fun because there's a lot of risk to it, so it creates this like really fun, in my opinion, this fun moment of like risk reward where you're like, all right, I can throw it out. I could get a lot of damage. I could also mess it up and get whiffed on that, get hit really hard, get punished for it if I do it wrong, that sort of thing. So I've been finding Heat really fun. Your thoughts on it, K Dubs?
yeah, I mean, I also really enjoyed the addition of Heat to Tekken 8. I think there's a lot of uses that I'm not fully aware of how best to use it, but I really enjoy having multiple resources in the match, especially that combined with the rage art, Heat being the resource that you're given right away at the beginning of the match, and you decide when you use it, and rage being the end of round
Yeah.
resource that you have. And having the flexibility of spending it, and I've only really started to realize the depth of the Heat towards the end of the beta when you figure out like every character's different with their heat. Like you have characters that gain new access to different moves, and Azucena is a great example of being having a dash into a stance for a mix-up. I didn't really get to see how that was used, but so you can use it for pressure and damage, but then also, a defensive like reversal type of move.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good for a lot of different players.
Totally. And like, that kind of makes sure with this element of like the gray health and everything that they're putting into the game and all that, I think is really interesting too. Like gray health with being able to get some of that both. I like it in the aspect of like, you have June who that's so also this kind of preface in this. I played a lot of June. K-Dubs played a lot of Azucena. We did play some other characters here and there. I really just hate playing Nina. I hate playing against what Zhao or whatnot. Hate playing against her. And King was fun so far. I think K-Dubs, you have a lot of enjoyment, not enjoyment, but like just like good what's the word? Like just you had a good experience playing Harang, and what he was doing. So we did play quite a few characters, but I'd say our mains that we really spent a lot of time with was Azucena and June. And I really like that June has a gray health recovery. Like you're using health to damage people, which I don't see a ton of in fighting games necessarily, where people are hurting themselves to then be able to damage the enemy, but then them giving you kind of risky ways to recover that health back, but also, rage arts will get you gray health back if you get it to hit to a degree. I know they've changed some of the tweaking of that, but yeah, that's just a cool mechanic, especially coming from like playing, Street Fighter 6 a lot lately. I just really have been enjoying the gray health mechanic and stuff as well.
Yeah. And another thing to mention about the Heat, I do know that it went through some changes from the last closed beta to this one,
Hmm.
and the rate in which it's consumed is a lot faster
Yeah.
now. And you kind of have to make that decision on when you activate it and how you're going to use it, because if you get, if your opponent kind of reverses the pressure and you're put on defense or are knocked into a combo, you may not be able to really utilize it. So
Yeah.
there is quite a bit of strategy in that, and I think that sense of depth is a lot of fun to like grow and develop your knowledge of.
Yeah, and the thing that you can all see here too from the footage as well, like just the obvious thing, the game looks great. Like honestly, them using the Unreal Engine, I think these character models, I know they mentioned that they had to build them all new for this game. They look fantastic. It's just really been pleased with that. The music is super solid. The levels are really great. So the things we kind of expect for that, but it's one thing that hilariously I feel like people have just instantly walked past, even though it's like one of the biggest things I think people will see is like this game looks better. It looks so much better. The animations, there's some weirdness with the animations and the hitboxes. We had some instances of somebody throwing out, like somebody basically being missing an attack and being in the opposite direction on the other side of an opponent, and the backs are both turned to each other, and somehow you know the rage art might still hit, or the heat might still hit. So there's some weird collision stuff there still that needs to get hammered out. I'm sure we'll get hammered out.
And some of that could be, we're not really sure if it, like that has to do with the design of the moves or if it has a little bit to do with the networking
Yeah.
on how that rollback is visually displayed.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
we'll
this,
see how that turns out.
yeah, it's a beta, right? So this build is not going to be the build that they're working on last week. It's going to be the build from like a month, 2 months ago, if that, right? It takes a while
Yeah.
for them to get a beta build together. So totally that stuff could be worked out now. Um, I know some different things that people were kind of talking about is movement in this game. I know I've heard a lot of people say that, and I felt the same, that movement feels pretty solid. They made backdashing for most characters better. Like, the backdashing feels better. To kind of really changes how like Korean backdash works. It almost, I feel like people have said that Korean backdash has been nerfed a little bit, and backdash has just kind of been improved a little bit, so they're more in line with each other. Which I think, for a casual's perspective, somebody who's not having played this game for years and years and years, makes the movement feel better. Sidestepping feels better. It works a lot better in this game. So I think overall the movement's improvement, especially from like if you haven't spent dozens and dozens of hours trying to get the KBD down, Korean backdash down, I think just doing normal backdash is rewarding in this game. Can be definitely rewarding in this game. So overall, just feels like a good interplay there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And another thing is like the sidestepping feels really good.
Yeah.
I think it's really strong. I think it's almost a huge improvement over what sidestepping in Tekken 7 was. Um, and that combined with the changes to the backdashing over Korean backdashing is still useful. I don't think that will go away, but it's not. All of that combined with the changes to like low parry and the damage output of counter hits makes the game feel very offensive and almost brawly. Like you're really swinging at each other.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely. It forces you to go at each other, right? With the benefits of the looking within the heat system and all that stuff, like, and
yeah,
also gray health. Like, man, if you mess up something and you get hit and you get knocked down, you got gray health. So then you just play a little bit better, a little bit smarter. You can recover that gray health. So like, 100% knockout draw brawling, which me, like when I play, I'm a really aggressive player. That's one of my faults. I actually feel like in this game, it doesn't punish me. It does almost more rewards me for being an aggressive player, kind of akin to Guilty Gear Strive in a way.
Yeah. And the way in which it rewards that kind of aggressive play incentivizes you to take even more risks, which could lead to your downfall, right? Like you have a big chunk of gray health up and you want to get that health back, and you taking more aggressive, risky options to get a hit could lead to you losing more health, and that's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So kind of go into like some of the negatives slash like things that we're hoping for in the future. But overall, kind of my last thoughts on the positives of the beta is that I think this is going to be an absolutely enjoyable game, especially again as somebody who's casual. I've not played a Tekken in decades at this point. I had so much fun playing this game, and ultimately, to me, that's the goal, right? I love top flight competitive play for this stuff, but my goal, and if I'm paying $60, $70 at this point now for a game, is if it's fun. I had fun with this. I'm super excited for the release of it. I don't know if you had any final wrap ups on the positive things that you experienced in this beta before we go to some of our issues slash concerns.
Yeah, I mean, like going on the whole enjoyment side of it, I stayed up until the very last minute of the beta playing until maintenance kicked me off.
Yeah,
And I woke up the next day thinking, I really wish I could still be playing Tekken 8.
exactly.
So, I think I have, I'm looking forward to the full release of the game and seeing, what else comes with what I saw in that beta.
Yeah.
And I
So
think that kind of wraps up my positive thoughts on that.
yeah, awesome, man. And so kind of going into the concerns slash negatives. Some of these are not. Well, kind of preface. Some of these are not negatives or concerns in the fact that we know they are issues, but also some questions that we had from the beta. Now, to put it in perspective on what this beta was, there were elements that we knew a lot of the game that they weren't trying to have us do, right? It was very heavily geared towards ranked play, the quick play, aka like just casual, non-ranked play, though it kind of still felt pretty ranked to be quite honest with you. But you just didn't have the movement of a rank. And then they had they called group play, which is you could sit down at the machine and then you could play somebody who went and sat at the other side of that machine, very like old arcade style. And so they were really heavily based on those things. So like the practice mode wasn't in the game, which could equal a little bit of frustration to be quite honest with you in the beta, because especially if you're in casual and you're trying to get matches, a lot of people just bailed on matches because they were just wanting to practice. So that was kind of frustrating. But
Yeah,
so
I
mhm,
ended up ditching casual matches to
yeah,
play ranked because people were
yeah.
canceling so many matchmaking
Definitely,
events.
you had to. So, so we say all this to preface that we don't fully know what will be in that final release game and some of these things. But I'm gonna kind of go over some of the lobby stuff, the lobbies of this game, and I'll leave it to K Dubs here to go over some of the networking and then a little bit of like the high, medium, low inconsistencies. So to start off with the lobby situation, in a positive aspect, I think the lobbies look really cool. I like this old arcadey feel. I think they gave themselves a platform that they could actually expand on this. Right now, they have the arcade section, and they have the practice session that wasn't active to do anything in, and then they have the beach section, which is going to be where Tekken Ball is going to play. I could see them in the future adding on other stuff, man. Like I don't know, like a stage for music things. We all know these companies love their microtransactions or whatnot, so maybe stage for that and stages for other stuff, different locations, different events. Tekken Ball's in there, but do they do a bowling arena for Tekken Bowling? Stuff like that. But on the negative side of it is there's a little bit, it's really cool to sit at the cabinets and I think play with against people or like to get that cool feeling of playing up against a cabinet. But the grouped play cabinets were pretty frustrating, honestly, pretty frustrating. So me and K Dubs played most of the beta together, though we did do ranked and casuals as well, but we did a lot of the beta together. Ranked and casuals are fine because you can go sit at a machine and queue for the ranked or the casuals, but you could also, there's a button to say like play anywhere or whatnot, where you basically just sit on the ground and you can go do in ranked and casual from there. The problem is if you want to play a friend in that current state of the game that they gave us, the only way you could do it was to sit at the group machines, and they were so more often than not taken either with two people already at them or one person just sitting there, probably just practicing. So it could get frustrating. We had to bounce between a ton of servers. Now the server scan system is really cool, makes it really easy. Kind of reminds us, we both talked a lot about this. Like, is this the MMO of fighting games? Because it felt very much like it when you're trying to find a server to go on an MMO. But that could be really frustrating because we had to jump between a lot of different places in order to actually just play a friend. So really hope that play anywhere selection or whatnot is going to be like other Tekkens, and like I really hope it is, where they're not going to lean too much into the cabinet side of it to like that's the only way to play your friends. Also from that perspective, the shadow the what's the what's it called, the super ghost, the few, like I know a lot of people are doing the fights on them, they weren't that great. They didn't feel that like intelligent. So I don't know how many hours of play they're really expecting those to feel, but I think a lot of people are playing like, we played like around 17 hours or so. So I don't know how many hours they're expecting you to play before your super ghost feels intelligent and plays like you, but it seems like it's not anywhere close yet. But also there's no way to search for super ghosts. There's no way to find people's super ghosts beyond you run into their avatar in that world, in that lobby, and then you can go fight their super ghost. I really hope that they do some sort of searching for players, kind of like going Street Fighter side, where like you can go to search up players by their Capcom code or whatnot and go do that and then fight their super ghost. I have people that I know play this game that I'm never probably ever going to see in a lobby that I want to fight their super ghost. So just for clout or for jokes and whatnot. So hopefully you can search and find that as well. But yeah, that's kind of my biggest fears. It's a really cool system, but I hope they don't over rely on it, because otherwise it can just be a pain in the butt to actually fight and play against your friends or super ghost and all that. Kind of going into the network stuff, what was your experience there, K-Dubs?
Yeah, so talking about network and a little bit with stability, I had a few times early in day one where I had quite a few crashes, um, that would basically end my game, and that was solved, I think, mostly by me changing the settings a little bit, lowering the demand on my PC. The game is a beta and probably not as well optimized as they're planning to do on release. So that combined with, the networking, I think we had so we played a lot of matches together, and our our network stability was great. I never
Mm-hmm.
felt a single thing with lag or really with rollback at all. Um, and the majority of my ranked play was really good. Now I had some bad matches. You're always going to get really bad connections no matter what game you play. You're not going to be able to play against everyone to the same stability. And I have to imagine that some of that has to do with people's computers probably not being uh, at the right settings, and that demand on their PC making for a bad match experience. So, like, it is a beta, and they're testing for the networking. It can improve in the future, but I also think it's good where it's at, and we should hopefully,
Yeah.
the demand on the PCs and the stability gets sorted out so that we know that that's not an issue.
Yeah, I agree. I think I had a pretty smooth experience. And then there was like the right, like just to kind of quickly go into it here before we wrap up, the high low medium sort of thing that we've been seeing around.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of conversation. I first saw this yesterday. Um, People talking about inconsistencies within Tekken 8 in the strings and jailing scenarios that they've experienced in Tekken 8. Some of the strings that you go through buttons and it goes like mid high or something like that, or mid high, and the last hit being duckable, even though it is a high. Um, and I didn't even realize this. For an example, would be Azucena's running 3-4 is a mid into high, and you cannot duck the second hit. You will get hit. Um, you can only block it. You block the first hit, you have to stand block the second hit.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that inconsistency can lead to some frustration in legacy players and how they've learned their muscle memory. But it could also be a little bit of a learning difficulty for newer players. And I don't know, how did you feel after finding out about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna be fully honest with you. Like, I think casual players don't care about jails because casual players don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I understand what some of these pro players are saying and it's valid and I totally get their perspective, but I think as like a newer player, a casual player, Tekken's the knowledge check game. It's difficult, it's challenging, it's a problem. And you expect that you're gonna have to learn a lot. I mean, this game is joked about as being the Excel spreadsheet game, right? So I understand that, but I think as a new player, one, you're so many of these other systems are helping a new player that I think is honestly, personally, to me, irrelevant. Doesn't matter for a new player. I think they're going to be running into so many other struggles in this game. I think just them understanding, what a how to act, how to properly use their like rage arts and their heat system is going to be the thing that they're going to be spending months getting well, right? It took, I mean, again, we're both not the newest fighting game players in the world, but it still took, I wouldn't say either of us necessarily feel like we're taking proper advantage of heat by the end of the beta. And we spent, 18, 20 hours in the game. So like, I just don't think it's as, I think it's actually more of honestly a problem for legacy players because they've built up all these years of understanding a system and that system is now changing. I think for casual players, it's just another system on top of an already complex system of game mechanics. That doesn't make a difference. Plus, we haven't talked about it, but they added in that new control scheme, this special mode or whatnot for your controls and everything to make some of that stuff easier. I think newer players will just brawl out over time. You'll learn it and then you'll start carrying, but at that point there's enough of the conversation already happening about these things existing that I think the community helps with a lot of that knowledge check. I'm gonna now I know, now I believe the Asusena thing is a mid, and that's what makes it on block or on duckable. And I know about it now, you know about it, like everybody knows about it. So like this community helps support it. So we all know the moves. As long as there's not a ton of them, right? As long as every move is not complex and weird in different ways. But if characters have a couple of them here and there, I don't think it's a major problem. I expect the knowledge check in every game. Again, go play Guilty Gear or something like that and try to tell me what's happening half of the time. There's so much flashiness on the screen. So, personally, me as like a more casual-minded player, I'm not bothered by it. I don't think it's gonna super. I don't think it's gonna create a reason for me to not play the game, essentially, or to like. I don't think it's I don't think it's the thing. I don't think I could say that like, oh, that's where the struggle in the game is, because like now the struggle in the game is like the 12 steps before when I'm just trying to learn basic combos.
Yeah, I mean it's another knowledge check on top of the other
Yeah.
knowledge checks that you're going to be learning throughout the game.
Yep.
You already have strings that you're going to be, sidestep the second hit to the left, or
Exactly.
you jump, or low parry, because the next hit in the string is going to be a low.
Exactly.
Um, and I can see how like casual players would not have really any concern to that. They're probably not even looking at the frame data, or uh, the mid high low. But I do wonder how people who are trying to improve their gameplay, that kind of like middle of the ground player,
Mm-hmm.
having to know specifically that a move is a jail, is going to be basically hitting mid, and you're going to have to know that from game experience, not from looking at, the hit indicators in the training mode.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. It's interesting. Obviously, I do think, like you're saying, overall consistency is great. Never against overall consistency. I think as long as it's not too much, too different, too everything's crazy, where I'm doing like a low kick at your ankles and somehow a high, right? Like as long as it's reasonable, and I think a lot of this stuff is reasonable to a degree that we're just gonna learn. And I'm a big fan of them putting things in versus taking things out. So hey, put in a easy heat system to create damage, but then add in some complexity in other ways. I think ultimately creates a game that's more interesting. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, overall to wrap up on the whole thing, I think we're both really positive on the beta so far. I am hoping I'm gonna assume that there'll probably be like at least another beta. I'm thinking before release, but I love it so far. I'm actually really excited for this game right now. I was excited before this beta. I was super, to be quite honest with y'all, so surprised at how much I like this game. So surprised. I mean, we were doing, I think the first night, we played until 5, 6 in the morning. So I was so surprised at how much I love this game so far. Like anything, there's some negatives there, but these negatives are just, it's just good that it's a fun game. I don't really care about much of the negatives, the frustrations. It's a fighting game. There's always frustrations. So that's how I've been feeling about it.
Every game, every game is going to have their problems, and the biggest part, like the biggest thing that they need to nail is making a fun game that people want to play. And let me tell you, I want to play this game.
Exactly. And I promise y'all it had nothing to do with Asusen and June both being hot. So that's all we're going to go through today. If you have any thoughts, your experiences, if you played it, if you watched also a lot of the gameplay, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.